Hello. Um, in this part section of the blog, I'd like to talk about choosing your doctor. Uh, to me, I think this is a very personal thing that you need to be comfortable with the person who's going to take you into surgery and take care of you. Um, in my own situation, I saw a local surgeon who was not confident he could complete the surgery given my weight. But he also talked about the size of his surgical instruments not being, set up to be able to handle somebody of my size, and indirectly through his PA, he gave me the impression, at least at first, that there was nothing, I wasn't eligible for surgery at all. So I really didn't get along well with him, and I was not uncomfortable actually proceeding. He did agree to a partial discectomy, which was just removing the part of the herniated disc at L4, L5. But as I did more and more research online, I determined that that would actually weaken the structure right at L4 and L5 because they have to cut through some of the bone to be able to get at the disc herniation, and because it would weaken it, it wouldn't actually really solve it. Even the first surgeon I saw indicated that this wouldn't solve my back pain problems, it would solve my right leg pain problems, which is why I started going through it in the first place. And I actually seriously considered that. In fact, we scheduled, I had a partial discectomy scheduled with him the Monday following Thanksgiving to be able to get that taken care of. In the meantime, after we had had that conversation and gotten to the point where I could at least have sort of the current problems taken care of, I started doing a bit more research into, what do I want to do and what do I want to look at. I guess we use my wife's medical insurance, and here in America, if you've got a good medical plan, there's typically in-network and out-of-network coverage. And so I actually did look at, as I was researching things on the internet, traveling. And traveling can be as little as, a couple of hours. At one point I was looking at a surgeon that was in Oklahoma as well as in Florida. So, and we live in Texas. So I was really looking at all options at that point and looking for what was the right solution for me. And it really came down to what doctor I was most comfortable with. So I did have consultations with the Laser Spine Institute, who have offices in Oklahoma as well as in Florida. And I seriously considered going there. The only challenge was that I couldn't get any kind of a confirmation of what procedure had to be done until I was already there. Even though I'd sent them all my medical records, my MRI and everything else, I did have a very brief conversation with with one of the doctors at Laser Spine Institute. She indicated I was a good candidate for surgery. She just couldn't say which surgery she would recommend me for at the time. So, and then in the meantime, I had talked with the North American Spine Institute in Dallas, and so it was closer. And when I talked to the doctor, it was kind of a no-brainer. I really enjoyed speaking with him. He was very frank, but no concern at all about being able to do an operation on somebody my size. And he really kind of gave me a great vibe in terms of confidence in being able to knock this out of the park. So So, I guess, let me just look over some of my notes here. So the real key is to feel at ease when you're working with your surgeon. The other thing I did, I went through the particular health insurance we have allows for looking at providers both in network and out of network, and then calculating what your out of pocket will be. I would look, back surgery is a serious enough surgery that I don't think you should eliminate the thought of spending more money if it's at all an option. And so money wasn't really the biggest issue to me. It was more logistics, time off work for my wife, who, of course, you know that when you have this surgery, your spouse or some adult needs to be with you the day of surgery in case things go really badly. And then also when you're discharged from the hospital, you need to have an adult there. So if we had gone to Florida, my wife would have had to take a week off of work, and it wouldn't have been like we were sticking our toes in the sand every day. I'd be basically going through tests and then a procedure and then recovery, and she'd be kind of stuck waiting on all of that. So anyway, so you need to plan on, the travel logistics and what has to happen to get you there, get your other adult where you need to go. And of course you need to be able to afford it. So one of the good things I discovered is that each of these facilities, it's a big enough surgery that each of these facilities assumes you're going to be in hospital for 3 nights. So that's the night of the day of surgery and then 2 additional nights before you're discharged. That seems to be pretty standard. I don't know, I've heard some people go home after 24 hours and 48 hours. I don't know, I look back at my at where we've been and what we've done, and of course I'm filming this after surgery, but I think it's really I think it'd be really pushing it to actually be discharged 24 hours after surgery. 48 maybe, but anyway, so when planning out, how this is all going to go down, you got to think about your family members and the impact on them and what's going on. Can the doctor do the surgery that you want? Oh, that's the other thing. I actually looked at several different procedures to be able to address the issues that I had. And at one point, I was looking at the narrowing of the nerve canal itself. I was looking at the stenosis where there was a shift in the vertebrae. There was a couple of other procedures that were actually possibilities, and so I kind of researched everything, and I got to the point where I'd watched enough animations of the surgery and so on that I was pretty comfortable with what I was talking about. And then when I talked to the doctor, I was an informed person who could actually ask the right questions about, an XLIF versus back surgery versus going through the abdomen, and et cetera, et cetera. So do your research, be comfortable with your surgeon, and go through the logistics to make sure that you can afford it and you've got your planning set up for being able to have a surgery out of town if that's what you end up deciding. For me, I have no doubt in my mind that it was the right decision to leave Georgetown and go to Dallas, have this done in Dallas. Despite the fact that, in order to get up there without having 2 cars, one of which I wouldn't have been able to drive home, I ended up flying to Dallas and having my consultation with my doctor face-to-face the day before surgery. My wife drove up after work on the Tuesday afternoon. She was then with me the day of surgery. And of course, then I was in hospital. She stayed with me that first day in the hospital. And then she went off. I didn't want her sleeping in the room. The rooms, luckily I was in a hospital that had all private rooms. And so she could have actually slept in the room. But, she was working and so on. So we made arrangements for her to stay in a hotel that was really close. She had the car with her so she could, be mobile. So on the Thursday after the surgery I had on the Wednesday morning, the Thursday morning, she drove back to work in Temple and worked for 2 days and then came back to pick me up on Friday. Well, Friday night she came back, and then on Saturday we left to go home. So the logistics of actually getting everything organized, having hotel stay and all that kind of stuff is just par for the course. But I think it's important to think about those kinds of things as you're preparing for your surgery. Let me see. Oh yeah, phone calls. So it's once you've had the MRI done and the MRI results are transferred to whatever back institute you're talking with. They have as much as the initial doctor or surgeon that I saw had at his disposal. Basically just the MRI pictures and the analysis of the MRI. And that's fine. That worked pretty well. It allowed the other people who were giving me estimates to be able to be just as informed and up to date with everything. The doctor I ended up going with, Dr. Valente at North American Spine, is the only doctor that requested hyperextension of my back and x-rays of that in extended view. And he explained to me that gives him a clear idea of how the bones are actually shifting in all different positions. Now, remember that I did those x-rays 3-4 weeks before I actually had the surgery. And holy mackerel, those x-rays really hurt. Because you have to extend or bend over, and at the time that was pretty painful. But it augmented what he already saw from the MRI and gave him high confidence in being able to get things done. I had a phone conversation with him and with the Laser Spine Institute. I thought that the Laser Spine Institute was more of a checkmark item, whereas when I spoke to Dr. Valente, he was evaluating whether he was evaluating me as much as I was evaluating him, and that's great. That's the way it should be, I think. So I think we actually got off to a good start, and and then I had a follow-on question. So he actually gave me a second consultation over the phone to put my mind at ease, and then wherever you go, make sure that you have at least one face-to-face with your surgeon before you actually go into surgery. And Dr. Valente insisted that I come up the day before surgery. I go through had some blood work done the day before, as well as a face-to-face meeting with him, and that worked out pretty well. So, in short, be comfortable with and at ease with your surgeon. Get second opinions. Don't just go with the first suggestion unless you're so comfortable with that doctor, you've been working with them for a while, that that's not really any option. And do as much research as possible. Remember, when you're doing your logistics planning, if you are traveling, you will need to have a follow-up after surgery. Sometimes they will keep you in the hospital longer so that you can actually do that right after the surgery is complete. And And then the other thing is, if you're not too far away, then a 2-week follow-up is pretty typical. So I'm planning right now to have my son drive me back up to Dallas next week to be able to get that 2-week visit in with the doctor's office. Anyway, I hope this has been very helpful. If it has, please like the posting, and if in fact you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel so that you get notification of additional postings. I still have all of the posts from the day of surgery and the first few days recovery that I will be posting in the next couple of days, and then follow up that I'll be doing with other things. But anyway, hope that's been very helpful to you. Thanks. Bye.